The rain fell in sheets, tapping against the large glass windows of Aarav Mehta's apartment. The city lights blurred into streaks, the streets reflecting the neon signs like shards of memory. Aarav had just returned from a long day at the firm, eager to surprise Meera with dinner he had prepared himself. He opened the door, expecting the familiar warmth of home, the smell of vanilla candles and her laughter. Instead, the apartment was silent, too silent. He stepped inside and froze. There they were, Meera and Karan. Aarav's chest tightened as he saw them, his girlfriend of 4 years, laughing, leaning against his best friend as if they belonged together. The sight struck him harder than any physical blow could. "Meera," he said, voice tight. They turned, and in that moment, time seemed to stop. Karan's eyes widened with guilt, but it was too late. Meera's face, a mask of shock and shame, betrayed nothing of the affection that had once bound them to him. What is this?" Aarav's voice cracked. Meera opened her mouth, but no words came. "I trusted you," he whispered, the weight of betrayal crushing him. "I trusted both of you." Karan tried to step forward, but Aarav raised a hand. Don't you dare." The pain, the rage, the heartbreak, it all collided. A storm that left him shaking. He didn't cry. He couldn't. Instead, he turned and left, slamming the door behind him, leaving both of them to the ruins of what they had destroyed. Aarav remembered the first time he had met Meera. College campus, springtime, cherry blossoms falling like delicate pink rain. She had smiled at him, and in that instant, something had shifted inside him. They had laughed, shared dreams, whispered secrets. For years, he had believed in a future together, one filled with love, trust, and shared ambitions. And Karan had been his brother, the one who stood by him through everything. All of it had crumbled in one night. For months, Aarav buried himself in work. He avoided friends, ignored calls, and tried to erase every memory of Meera and Karan. The pain was raw, but slowly, he began to rebuild his life. He met Anaya 2 years later. Patient, kind, understanding. She didn't rush him, didn't force him to forget, but she helped him heal. Gradually, the wounds closed enough for him to breathe again. Enough to trust again. Enough to open his heart carefully, cautiously to love. Yet, despite all the years, despite all the effort, one truth remained buried but unforgotten. He had never stopped loving Meera. 5 years had passed since that night. The night that had shattered Aarav's heart and burned the bridges of trust he had built with Meera and Karan. 5 years of pain, 5 years of rebuilding, 5 years of learning to live without the love he thought was his forever. Aarav had moved on, or at least, he told himself he had. His career had flourished. He was now a respected senior partner at his firm, known for his precision, intelligence, and unshakable calm. And there was Anaya, gentle, patient, warm Anaya, who had slowly helped him find his way back to happiness. Yet, despite all that, a part of him remained scarred. Love, once so pure and intoxicating, now felt like a dangerous fire, beautiful but capable of destruction. He had convinced himself he was safe, until today. The city's annual charity gala buzzed with soft laughter, clinking glasses, and the glow of crystal chandeliers. Aarav, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, moved through the crowd with practiced ease, greeting colleagues and clients. Yet his attention kept drifting, a faint unease prickling at the edges of his mind. And then he saw her, Meera. She stood across the hall, her presence undeniable. The same soft laugh, the same graceful posture, the same eyes that had once drawn him in and broken him apart. Her hair was longer now, and she carried herself with the poise of someone who had lived through storms and survived. But the moment their eyes met, it was as if the years melted away. His chest tightened, memories sharp, vivid and cruel flashed unbidden. The night of betrayal. The apartment. The laughter that had once meant everything and now meant nothing but pain. She's here. After all these years. Why now? He thought. He wanted to look away. To pretend he hadn't seen her. To maintain the carefully constructed life he had built. But something old curiosity, unresolved anger, and a lingering sense of unfinished business kept him rooted. He watched as she moved gracefully through the crowd, engaging with others, laughing politely, but occasionally glancing in his direction. She hadn't expected this reunion either. Her eyes widened slightly when they met his. Aarav's mind raced. Does she regret it? Does she even care? He clenched his fists subtly, forcing himself to breathe. Anaya, sensing his distraction, leaned closer. "You've been quiet," she whispered, her hand brushing his arm. "Are you okay?" "Yes, just thinking," he said, forcing a smile. She nodded, though her eyes lingered on him with concern. Aarav appreciated her patience, but his mind was elsewhere. The past had returned, uninvited, and he wasn't sure he was ready to confront it. The memory struck with brutal clarity. Aarav had come home early, eager to surprise Meera. The apartment had smelled faintly of rain and vanilla, and then Karan, Meera, laughter, intimacy. He remembered the anger that had consumed him, the betrayal that had burned him from the inside out. The helplessness he had felt as someone he trusted more than life itself became the architect of his heartbreak. He had left, never looking back, vowing never to let anyone hurt him that way again. And now, here she was, standing in the same city, in the same room, looking at him as if nothing had happened. A voice broke his reverie. "Aarav." He turned. Meera stood a few steps away, her posture tentative, her eyes glistening. I didn't expect to see you here." He squared his shoulders. "Neither did I," he said, voice low but controlled. "I didn't come to this event to talk to ghosts." Her lips trembled. I need to explain. Please, just a moment." He hesitated. Part of him wanted to walk away, to protect the fragile peace he had built. Another part, the part that had loved her so completely, wanted to listen. "Fine," he said finally. "One moment." They moved to a quieter corner, away from the hum of conversation. Meera's hands trembled slightly. "Aarav, I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything. I've regretted it every day since." He studied her, anger and hurt warring with the faint flicker of old affection. "Regret doesn't fix the past," he said, voice tight. "You betrayed me. You betrayed everything we had. And now, you expect me to just forgive you?" "No," she said softly, tears forming. "I don't expect forgiveness. I only want you to hear me. That's all. Please." Aarav looked at her, every memory of love, pain, and betrayal colliding. He wanted to speak, to yell, to ask why, but all that came out was a whisper. "Go on." She swallowed and began to speak, revealing truths he had never imagined, secrets that would change everything he thought he knew. The gala hall had begun to thin. The chatter of guests, once vibrant, now lingered as a soft murmur against the backdrop of crystal chandeliers and soft piano music. Aarav leaned against the balcony railing, staring at the city below, the lights flickering like memories he had tried to forget. And then he felt a presence behind him. "Can we talk?" He turned slowly. Meera stood there, her expression cautious, vulnerable, yet somehow determined. The sight of her stirred memories he had buried deep. Pain, love, betrayal. Aarav's jaw tightened. "Why? So you can apologize and leave again?" She shook her head. "No, I just want you to hear me. Not excuses, just the truth." He laughed bitterly, though it came out hollow. "The truth? You think that can fix 5 years of betrayal?" Meera's eyes glistened. "Maybe not fix, but maybe it can explain." Aarav's posture stiffened. "Explain?" Yes, she said softly. That night, it wasn't what you think. It wasn't a choice I made, willingly. Aarav's fists clenched. Go on, he said, his voice low but sharp. She swallowed hard. Karan, he cornered me. He manipulated me. I was scared, terrified. I didn't know how to reach you. I thought you'd never forgive me. Terrified? Aarav's voice was cold. You didn't stop him. You didn't call me. You let it happen. Tears welled in her eyes. I was trapped, Aarav. He threatened me, threatened us. I wanted to tell you every single day, but I couldn't. I was alone, and I didn't know who to trust. Aarav's pulse quickened, a mix of old anger and a spark of lingering hope igniting in his chest. So you let 5 years go by without telling me? Yes, she whispered, barely audible. I know I failed you, but I never stopped loving you. He stared at her, every emotion he had suppressed threatening to erupt. Part of him wanted to lash out, to walk away, to erase her presence entirely. Another part, a part he had buried under years of work, under Anaya's love, wanted answers, wanted her, wanted what they had lost. I moved on, Meera, he said finally, his voice quieter but steady. I've built a life. I've found peace. And you're a ghost from my past. I never wanted to meet again. Meera stepped closer, her voice trembling. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness. I only wanted you to know the truth. That's all, because I couldn't carry it alone anymore. Silence stretched between them. The weight of unspoken words pressed heavily. Memories of laughter, heartbreak, and longing filled the space. Finally, Aarav exhaled, his anger giving way to cautious resolve. You should leave now, he said softly. This conversation is over. Meera nodded, tears streaming freely. Yes, I'll go. Thank you for listening, Aarav. I truly am sorry. She turned to leave, and Aarav watched her go, a strange ache in his chest. The past had returned, unbidden and unwelcome, but he realized, with a pang he couldn't ignore, that he wanted answers, because there was more she wasn't telling him. Aarav sat in his car outside Cafe Horizon, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening in the evening glow. He had agreed to meet Meera, though the thought of it made his chest tighten. 5 years, he thought. 5 years of rebuilding, and now she wants to see me. Why? He texted. Is greater than 1 hour. That's all. Inside the cafe, Meera sat at the corner table, her hands nervously fidgeting with her coffee cup. She looked up when Aarav entered. For a moment, neither spoke. The air was heavy with unspoken words and memories. Hi, she said softly. Hi, he replied, his voice low and measured. She gestured toward the empty chair across from her. Can I sit? Aarav nodded, keeping his posture rigid. 1 hour, he said quietly. She nodded, taking a deep breath. Thank you for coming. I didn't know how to reach you before. I was afraid. He studied her, conflicted. Part of him wanted to push her away, to preserve the life he had rebuilt. Another part, the part that had loved her so completely, wanted answers. Then start talking, he said finally. She hesitated, then whispered, It's about Karan. And you. Aarav's heart skipped. What do you mean? She looked down at the table. There's a child, Aarav. A child you don't know about. Time froze. His mind went blank. What? What, child? My daughter, Meera said, voice trembling. She's 4 years old. And she's yours. Aarav's hands shook. You never told me? I didn't know how, Meera admitted, tears welling in her eyes. I was terrified. I thought you'd hate me. I wanted to protect her. Protect her from the pain, from our past. He stared at her, disbelief and shock warring with a flicker of hope he didn't dare acknowledge. She's my daughter? He whispered. Yes, Meera said softly. Her name is Aarya. She doesn't know you yet, but she's waiting to meet her father. Aarav leaned back, his chest tight. 5 years of absence, betrayal, and unanswered questions had led to this moment. A daughter, a life he had never known. I need time, he said, voice hoarse. I don't even know where to start. Meera reached for his hand. Please, consider meeting her, just once, for her sake. He looked down at her, then closed his eyes briefly. I'll think about it, he whispered. As he walked out of the cafe, the rain-soaked streets reflected the turmoil in his mind. A daughter, a life waiting for him. The past had returned with a force he had never anticipated, and he knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Aarav parked his car outside the modest apartment Meera had given him. His heart pounded with anticipation, nerves, and a strange mixture of fear and excitement. In just a few minutes, he would meet a little girl he had never known existed, a daughter who had grown up without him. He gripped the steering wheel, took a deep breath, and walked up the steps to the apartment. Inside, Meera knelt beside a small girl with soft curls and big, expressive brown eyes. The very eyes that mirrored his own. She was drawing with colored pencils, lost in concentration. Aarav froze. Every detail, the tilt of her head, the curl of her hair, the shape of her nose was unmistakably his. Meera noticed him and whispered, Aarav, she doesn't know yet. Please, take it slow. He nodded, his throat tight. I will. Stepping into the apartment, he lowered himself to her level. Hi, I'm Aarav, he said softly. Hi, I'm your dad. Aarya's eyes widened. Dad? She repeated, unsure of the word. Yes, he said, smiling gently. I'm your dad. My name is Aarav. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, cautiously, she inched closer. Are you really? Yes, he whispered. I've waited a long time to meet you. Her tiny hand reached for his. Aarav took it gently in his own, holding it as if he would never let go. Then, without warning, she leaned into him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. I've always wanted a daddy, she whispered, burying her face against his chest. Aarav's chest tightened. Tears he had held back for years slipped down his face. He hugged her tightly, feeling a warmth and completeness he hadn't known was missing. It's okay, he murmured. I'm here now. I won't ever leave you. Meera watched silently, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know how to tell you, she admitted softly. I was scared you'd hate me. Aarav pulled back slightly, looking at Meera with a complex mix of emotions. I don't hate you, he said slowly. It took me a long time to process everything, but she's here now, and that's what matters. Meera nodded, relief flooding her expression. And will you forgive me someday? Aarav looked down at Aarya, her small hand clutching his shirt, then back at Meera. His voice was steady, calm, but heavy with emotion. We'll see. Right now, we focus on her. We focus on building something real. And for the first time in 5 years, all three of them, father, mother, and daughter, stood together, facing a future that, despite all the pain, suddenly felt possible. The morning after meeting Aarya, Aarav woke with a strange mix of elation and unease. Holding her small hand in his memory, seeing her trust-filled eyes, he finally felt the warmth of fatherhood, but that warmth was shadowed by the ghosts of the past. His phone buzzed. A new message from Meera. Is greater than Karen. He's missing. I don't know what to do. Aarav's heart sank. Karan, the man who had betrayed him, the man who had caused years of heartbreak, and now missing? He called Meera immediately. What happened? He vanished 2 days ago, Meera said, her voice trembling. The police suspect it's related to fraud at his company. But I don't think that's the full story. He seems scared, terrified even. Aarav pinched the bridge of his nose. And you want me to do what exactly? Because of everything. I don't trust anyone else, she admitted. I need your help. Aarav hesitated. He hated Karan, but a sense of justice and lingering responsibility made him pause. Fine. I'll ask around. Nothing more. Aarav contacted old friends, searching for Karan's last movements. One call stood out. Inspector Raghav Sethi, a trusted friend from college now in the police force, is greater than... Karan's been missing since Wednesday, Raghav said cautiously. But listen, Aarav, this isn't a simple disappearance. There are hints of blackmail, offshore accounts, maybe worse. Are you sure you want to get involved? I need facts, Aarav insisted. Nothing more. I just want to know if he's safe or in danger. Raghav hesitated. The last activity from Karan's phone was near your old apartment building. That place where, well, you know. Aarav froze. Memories of betrayal flashed back the apartment. The laughter, the heartbreak. He swallowed hard. I'll check it out. That evening, Aarav returned to the old apartment building. Rain-slicked streets reflected neon signs as he approached. The building smelled faintly of dust and abandonment, a silent witness to the collapse of his past. Inside, he saw a faint light flickering from a back room. He approached cautiously. On a table lay an envelope addressed to him. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a single note, written in Karan's messy handwriting. Is greater than. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. I never meant to hurt you, brother. But the truth was never what you thought. Aarav's mind raced. What truth? What had Karan hidden? Behind the note, he found a photograph Meera and a little girl he immediately recognized. His breath caught. The child's eyes, they were his. On the back, Karan had written, is greater than. She's yours, Aarav. Aarav sank into a chair, gripping the photograph. 5 years of absence, betrayal, and unanswered questions had led to this moment. The past collided with the present in a way he hadn't anticipated. He thought of Meera, of Aarya, of the fragile family he was beginning to form. But Karan's disappearance wasn't just a mystery, it was a threat. And Aarav realized that uncovering the truth could put everyone he cared about in danger. Looking out the rain-streaked window, Aarav held the photograph tightly. One thing was clear. He had to find Karan, uncover the truth, and protect his daughter. He whispered to himself, whatever it takes, I won't let him hurt her or us again. And with that resolve, the next chapter of his life began. A journey into suspense, betrayal, and unexpected family bonds, where the past could no longer remain buried. Aarav couldn't sleep that night. The photograph of Aarya, the little girl who bore his eyes, lay on the nightstand like a silent reminder of everything he had lost and everything he had yet to gain. 5 years of absence, betrayal, and unanswered questions had led to this moment. And now the truth was in front of him, undeniable. The next morning, Aarav called Meera. She answered immediately, her voice shaking. You saw it? She asked. Yes, Aarav said, keeping his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. I saw the photograph. There was silence on the other end, thick with fear and hope. Aarav, I was so scared. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought maybe you'd hate me forever. I don't hate you, Aarav said slowly. It took me time to process everything, but she's here now. That's what matters. She's at home, Meera said quietly. She doesn't know I told you yet, Aarav exhaled. Then I want to meet her, now. Aarav parked outside Meera's apartment later that day, heart racing. He entered quietly, careful not to startle the little girl who was so central to his life yet had been a stranger until now. Aarya looked up from her colored pencils, her big brown eyes locking onto him. He froze. Every detail, the curls of her hair, the tilt of her head, the way she concentrated on her drawing was unmistakably his. He knelt down to her level. "Hi," he said softly. I'm Aarav. I'm your dad." Arya's eyes widened. "Dad?" "Yes," he whispered. "I've been waiting a long time to meet you." Her tiny hand reached out tentatively. Aarav took it gently, holding it as if he could never let go. Slowly, she leaned into him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. I've always wanted a daddy," she whispered, burying her face against his chest. Aarav's chest tightened. Tears he had held back for years slipped down his face. "It's okay," he murmured. "I'm here now. I won't ever leave you." Meera watched silently, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know how to tell you," she admitted softly. "I was scared. Scared you'd hate me." Aarav pulled back slightly, looking at Meera. "I don't hate you. She's here now. That's what matters." Meera nodded, relief flooding her expression. "Will you forgive me someday?" Aarav looked down at Aarya, then back at Meera. "We'll see. For now, we focus on her. We focus on building something real." For the first time in 5 years, all three of them, father, mother, and daughter, stood together in the same room. The past still lingered like a shadow, but the future now held a glimmer of hope. Aarav held Arya's hand tightly, realizing that the years of pain, betrayal, and heartbreak had led him here not to despair, but to a chance to build a family he had never imagined he would have. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything could be okay. The morning sun streamed softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the small living room. Aarav sat at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee while watching Aarya arrange her colored pencils in a meticulous line. "Daddy, look!" she exclaimed, holding up a drawing of 3 figures, holding hands, a man, a woman, and a little girl with big bright eyes. "This is us!" Aarav's chest tightened. The simplicity of the drawing captured everything he had longed for: family, love, and the chance to make things right. He bent down and kissed the top of her curls. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. You're an amazing artist." Meera stood quietly by the counter, watching. Aarav's patience, his tenderness toward Aarya, and the gentle way he accepted their daughter softened something inside her. She realized that, despite all the years of pain and betrayal, he still had the capacity to love and forgive. The next few weeks became a mixture of laughter, small challenges, and tiny victories. Aarav adjusted to fatherhood naturally, reading bedtime stories, helping Aarya with schoolwork, and learning the quirks of her personality, the tilt of her head when thinking, her love for vanilla ice cream, and the way she giggled at the silliest jokes. Meera and Aarav navigated tentative co-parenting. Moments of tension flared, reminders of past pain appeared. But there were also moments of tenderness that reminded them why they had fallen in love in the first place. One afternoon, Aarav and Meera sat on the balcony, while Aarya played on the floor inside. "I was afraid you'd never want to be part of her life," Meera admitted softly. "I thought maybe you'd hate me forever." Aarav looked at her, the faint shadow of pain still present but softened by Arya's presence. "I won't lie, it took time, and it still hurts to remember, but she's here now, that's what matters. And us? Do you think?" He smiled faintly. We'll see. For now, we focus on her. Step by step, maybe. We rebuild. That evening, the apartment was filled with laughter. Aarya insisted on helping Aarav cook dinner, spilling flour and giggling as she stirred the sauce. Aarav and Meera watched, sharing glances filled with a mix of amusement and nostalgia. Careful with the sauce, Aarav teased. You're supposed to be the grown-up, Daddy, Aarya squealed, waving her flour-covered fingers. Meera laughed softly, the sound of balm to Aarav's still, fragile heart. In that moment, he realized that love, forgiveness, and trust were not simply given, they were rebuilt through patience, care, and small acts of devotion. Over the following weeks, Aarav and Meera had honest conversations about the past, painful, necessary, and sometimes tearful. They revisited the night of betrayal, discussed the years of silence, and faced the mistakes that had shaped them. I don't want to hurt you again, Meera whispered one evening, tears in her eyes. I want us to be a family for her, and maybe for us too. Aarav looked at her, weighing the pain of the past against the hope of the present. I can't promise it'll be easy, he admitted. Trust takes time, but I want to try for her and for us. It was Aarya's innocence that bridged the gap. She didn't care about past betrayals. She only wanted to be loved and to have her parents together. One evening, as Aarav tucked her into bed, she whispered, I'm glad you're my daddy. And I'm glad Mommy and you are friends again. Aarav kissed her forehead, holding back tears. I'm glad too, sweetheart. And we'll try to be more than friends. We'll be a family. And for the first time in years, Aarav believed it. A week had passed since Aarav had begun investigating Karen's disappearance. The rain-soaked streets of the city seemed darker, more foreboding, and the shadows of the past loomed over every step he took. Aarav's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hesitant, he answered. Hello? He said cautiously. A cold, familiar voice echoed through the line. Aarav, you think you can bury the past, but some debts aren't forgotten. Aarav's stomach twisted. Karan. He had been alive all this time, hiding, waiting, and now he had returned, threatening the fragile life Aarav had built with Meera and Aarya. Where are you? Aarav demanded, his voice steady but laced with fury. You'll see soon enough, Karan replied, and the line went dead. Aarav paced in his apartment, Aarya playing quietly nearby, unaware of the danger looming outside their doorstep. He could feel it. Karan wasn't just missing, he was planning something. Meera entered, concern etched across her face. Aarav, what happened? He showed her the message. He's back, and he knows about us, about her. We need to be careful. Meera's eyes widened. Do you think he'll hurt her? Aarav shook his head. I won't let that happen. Not now. Not ever. Aarav contacted Inspector Raghav, briefing him on the situation. I don't know what Karan's planning, but I won't risk Aarya or Meera, Aarav said. Raghav nodded. We'll increase patrols near your residence and keep an eye on his known associates. But you need to be careful too. Karan's cunning, he's unpredictable. Back at home, Aarav set up small precautions. Security cameras, checking locks, and keeping Aarya close at all times. Every laugh, every smile from her reminded him why he had to act, why he had to confront the past head-on. Late one night, Aarav received another call, this time from a disguised number. Meet me at the old warehouse on River Street. Alone. Midnight. Karen's voice hissed. Aarav's mind raced. He knew this was dangerous, but he also knew he couldn't wait for Karan to strike first. I'll be there, he said firmly. As he drove through the empty streets, Aarav's thoughts flickered between rage, fear, and responsibility. Karan had been a part of his life, a man who had betrayed him deeply. Now he threatened everything Aarav loved, most his daughter, his family, and the fragile happiness he had fought so hard to build. At the warehouse, shadows danced along the walls. Karan emerged from the darkness, a smirk on his face, his presence a stark reminder of betrayal and pain. "Aarav," Karan said, voice dripping with mockery. "You've done well, building your little life. But it's all fragile, isn't it? One wrong move." Aarav stepped forward, fists clenched, eyes burning. "This ends tonight, Karan. No more games. You're not touching my family." The confrontation had begun a battle not just of strength, but of wits, courage, and the determination to protect everything Aarav had worked so hard to rebuild. The days following the warehouse confrontation were tense. Aarav remained vigilant, checking every corner of the apartment, monitoring cameras, and making sure Aarya was safe. Yet, despite the danger lurking outside, he noticed something unexpected. Meera's presence no longer felt like a reminder of betrayal. Instead, it felt like a steady anchor in the storm. One evening, Aarav and Meera were helping Aarya with her homework. She was struggling with a math problem, her small brow furrowed in concentration. "Don't worry, sweetheart," Aarav said, guiding her pencil. "We'll figure it out together." Meera leaned closer. "You're good with her," she said softly. Aarav looked at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "She brings out the best in me." Meera's eyes glistened. I miss this. I miss seeing you like this. For the first time, the years of resentment, pain, and anger seemed to melt into the background. They shared a quiet moment, the tension of the past giving way to something tentative, fragile, yet undeniably present: love. The threat of Karan still loomed. Aarav had uncovered that Karan had been involved in illegal dealings that endangered not just him, but everyone around him. "I can't let him ruin our lives," Aarav said one night, pacing. Meera took his hand. "You don't have to do this alone. We're in this together, Aarya. Me, you. We can face anything as a family." Aarav's heart swelled. The words, simple as they were, carried a weight that no apology or explanation ever could. He realized that Meera wasn't just his past. She could be part of his future. Later that night, after Aarya had gone to bed, Aarav and Meera sat on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker. "Do you ever think about us?" Meera asked softly. Aarav looked at her, the memories of betrayal still fresh, but the warmth of their daughter and the calm of the moment giving him courage. "I do," he admitted. "I've thought about what could have been, what we lost, and what we might still have." She reached for his hand. "I've never stopped loving you, Aarav, not for a single day." For the first time in 5 years, Aarav allowed himself to believe it. He leaned closer, their hands entwined, and whispered, "Neither have I." And in that quiet moment, under the glow of the city lights, they kissed not as lovers returning to each other after betrayal, but as two people ready to rebuild, to forgive, and to create a future together. From that day, their bond strengthened. Aarav, Meera, and Aarya faced the challenges together, sharing laughter, tears, and the quiet moments that defined family life. The past hadn't disappeared, but it no longer dictated their lives. Karan's threat was still out there, but Aarav's determination to protect his family had never been stronger. And in the safety of their home, surrounded by love, trust, and the laughter of their daughter, Aarav finally felt whole. The city had begun to wake to a calm morning, the sunlight spilling over rooftops and glinting off the glass buildings. Aarav stood at the window of his apartment, holding a mug of coffee, Aarya's laughter echoing from the living room. The storm of the past months, the betrayal, the disappearance, the threats was finally behind them. The final confrontation with Karan had been tense but decisive. With the help of Inspector Raghav and a team of officers, Aarav had cornered Karan in his hideout. You think you can destroy what we've built?" Aarav had demanded, voice steady but burning with controlled fury. Karan, defeated and fearful, had no response. His threats evaporated in the face of Aarav's resolve and the law's presence. The man who had once shattered Aarav's life was finally brought to justice. Back home, Aarya had been waiting, her small arms wrapped around Aarav's leg as he walked in. "Daddy! Daddy! You're back!" He picked her up, spinning her around. "I'm never leaving you again, sweetheart," he whispered. Meera watched from the kitchen doorway, a smile on her face. The sight of Aarav and Aarya together, their bond unbroken by time or danger, filled her heart with warmth. Aarav noticed her and gestured her over. "Come here," he said. She joined them, and the three of them stood together, a family united, stronger than ever. In the following weeks, Aarav and Meera focused on nurturing their relationship. They went on small outings with Aarya, cooked meals together, and slowly, naturally rebuilt the love they had once lost. One evening, Aarav took Meera's hand as they sat on the balcony, watching the city glow. "I know the past will always be a part of us," he said, "but I don't want it to define us. I want our future together, as a family." Meera's eyes glistened. "I want that too, and I'll never take it for granted again." Aarya thrived in the warmth and security of their home. She no longer feared the absence of a father, nor the uncertainty of her mother's love. Her laughter, curiosity, and joy filled every corner of the apartment. Aarav and Meera found themselves growing alongside her, learning patience, compassion, and unconditional love. Years later, the little apartment that had once witnessed heartbreak and betrayal now echoed with laughter, love, and memories of a family rebuilt. Aarav and Meera, having forgiven the past and embraced the present, watched Aarya run through the park, her eyes shining with happiness. Hand in hand, Aarav and Meera smiled at each other, a quiet understanding passing between them. Life had tested them, hurt them, and challenged them, but it had also given them a second chance at love, a second chance at family. And this time, nothing, not betrayal, not fear, not the shadows of the past, could take it away.